Hello, I'm Dr. Ken, and this is our first lecture of Women's Health Wapology. This first lecture is going to be like a crash course in reproductive health. This is for all of you guys who are beginners. So, we're going to start with some anatomy, and the reason is because how can I go into deeper disease processes if you don't understand the anatomy? So, if I want to talk about endometriosis, I need you to know where the endometrium is. So, we're going to start there. So let's start with what we can see on the outside. This is the vulva. This is the mons pubis. So if you think about your pelvic area, a little spongy, a fatty area there. This is your labia majora and your labia minora. It's important to know that in every person, this is going to look completely different, and that is completely normal. This little hole here is the urethral opening. That is where your pee comes out. Not from here, not from in here, from that little hole there. And then this hole here is your vaginal hole. So this is the vulva. The vaginal is actually inside. The vagina is inside. It's not the whole thing on the outside. This is just the vulva. Okay. Now, very important thing about this, and the fun part about this, the clitoris. This is the most important part because this little piece that you see here is only a fraction of what's really going on. It kind of looks like a wishbone. And what's important about this is it is the one human organ, the only human organ that has one sole purpose, and it is pleasure. This organ, the clitoris, has over 8,000 nerve endings. It's twice as much as a male penis. So that's some good information for you ladies. So now we're moving to the inside of the body. This is the vaginal canal. This is a muscular tube that's flexible and it elongates at times and is shorter at times. It leads to your cervix and then to your uterus. This is your uterus and it's about the size of a pear when you are not pregnant. This inner lining is the endometrium. That's what sheds when you have your period. This is the myometrium. These are the fallopian tubes, and these are the ovaries. These are where our eggs are coming from on each side in our ovaries. And so this is that internal thing that we are going to go over. So when I tell you endometrium or myometrium or ovaries, this is what I'm speaking of. Okay, so now let's talk about the menstrual cycle. I'm going to put up a copy of, well, a screenshot of my Flow app. If you don't already have a Flow app, please download it. If you're a guy on here, don't worry about it, but ask your girlfriend or your mother or sister if they have the Flow app. And that's going to help you track your periods. It's good to have the Flow app because you're able to see what's going on during the different phases of your menstrual cycle. Your menstrual cycle is not those days that you're bleeding. Your menstrual cycle is actually that about month long time from the start of your period to the end, the last day before your next period. And so that usually goes around 28 to 30 days. You'll see mine's above that. That's because I'm peri, and we'll get into that later. So there's four phases of the menstrual cycle. Of course, you have the menses. That is when you're bleeding. That's going to be on average of 3 to 5 to 7 to 9 days for each individual person. But most people are going to last between 3 to 5 days. Then we have our follicular phase. That is right after the menses, and that is when your brain is telling your ovaries to prep another egg. Okay. Then we have ovulation. Ovulation is the time that we are able to get pregnant, where we're fertile. And then later after that, we have the luteal phase. The luteal phase is going to be very important in the future because when we talk about PMDD, when we talk about PMS, when we talk about perimenopause, the luteal phase always comes into play. And so I want you guys to understand that. I'm going to put up a little diagram so you can see the different phases. Now, it's very important to also understand that you're able to um, know what phase you're in based on your vaginal discharge, based on just on how you're feeling. And so it's important. That's why I want you guys to download that app because you can start documenting your symptoms and then you can figure out where you are. You also want to see how long is your cycle. Is your cycle 28 days? Is it 35 days? Is it regular? Are you having a cycle every 28 days like clockwork? Or is it 28 days once and the next one is 60 days and the next one is a year? Then you have an irregular cycle. It's also good to know how long the actual bleeding lasts. And then you can also, when you have one of these apps, it will start to predict your ovulation day. Once you do this enough and you know how you feel, you'll agree, yes, I'm ovulating. Now let's go back and talk about vaginal discharge. And vaginal pH. So our body has to remain in balance, homeostasis. And so for the vagina, the normal homeostasis, which keeps us balanced, is a pH of between 3.5 to 3.8 to 4.5. It's slightly acidic, and it's that way for a reason. Now, if it ever becomes more alkaline or more acidic, then that can cause issues with your vaginal health. And so in addition to the pH, you also have the vaginal discharge, which is very important. If you guys follow me, you know that I used to say I'm talking about Wapology, where I tell you the difference between wet, wet, and wet, because not all wet is good wet. Well, not all wet is bad wet either. Okay? So discharge is our body's way of lubricating our vaginas and also cleansing. It's our own personal cleanser. And so that's going to come regardless. Once you hit the age of menarche, and we'll go with that too. Age of menarche is when you first start your period. Then you will start to notice that you are having vaginal discharge. Now, that vaginal discharge is going to change with each phase. So, after your period, so after menses, when you go in that follicular phase, it's going to be sticky to dry to maybe nothing. Then, when you're approaching that ovulatory phase, then it's going to get that egg white. Well, before it gets ovulatory, at the inner follicular, it's going to be more of like a cloudy, clear, white, kind of wet. Then, when you're about to ovulate, that's when it gets that egg white consistency. Imagine cracking an egg and you have that clear stuff. That is how the vaginal discharge is. It's stretchy, it's creating a path for the sperm to go where it has to go. And then, I'm sorry, y'all, I'm a little under the weather. I'm stuffy and everything. Um, when you go into the luteal phase, you will either have no discharge or a creamy discharge or a thick discharge. Now, avoid all of this and ignore all of this if you're on birth control because that changes everything. Sorry, guys, I had to cough. So, when it comes to our vaginal discharge, it can tell us a lot about our bodies. It's like a door, like a book, letting us know what's going on with our bodies. It's very simple once we figure it out. You can look at your body, understand how you're feeling, know that, okay, I'm a little cranky right now, or when you start to get in that luteal phase, you'll know. Like, okay, I must have just ovulated. Let me go look at my flow app. And that is me all the time. Okay, let me look at the flow app. And so that is why it's so important. It's also important to understand because if you're trying to get pregnant or if you're trying not to get pregnant, it's good to know this information. Um, it's also good to know what is normal so that you know what is abnormal. So when we get to start talking about bacterial vaginosis and desquamative vaginitis or yeast infections, when we get to talking about that, you will understand why it's important for you to know what the normal discharge is like when it's going through those phases and what is abnormal. Okay? So this was our crash course. If you have not registered, please go to the Hillman Talk University and register. It's absolutely free. And going there, you'll be able to get resources. So all those documents that I have, like I put up here, the pictures and diagrams, they're all already um, on the dashboard. So once you register for my class, it's free. You'll be able to get the dashboard and get to see the different resources. If you want a way to go directly to my class, you guys know where to go. This is TikTok, you know the words. Um, you go there and then you'll see a list of places and then you will see my class. And so it can bring you right there to be able to register for my class. And registering is going to help you because let's say something happens to TikTok. Let's say we run out of time and we no longer have it. Or let's say my videos, this video is only can be 10 minutes. So if I talk about a topic like endometriosis or PMDD that may go longer, I'm going to put it on YouTube and I'm only going to put a snippet here on TikTok. So you want to have the dashboard so you can have the links for the full videos. So that was our crash course on Wapology 101. That gets you guys, all you beginners, up to where we need you to be so we can start talking about the fun stuff. Now, if you have questions and you want me to teach about a certain topic, please put it in the comments because that's what I'm here for. I'm going to teach what you guys want to know. All right. I will see you guys on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time for class discussion and office hours. Since we ditched the kind of basic stuff here, I'm just going to go over it and then what you can expect over this summer semester. All right. Good night.